Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about CounterBite, the Vampire Bloodlines multiplayer mode that we had suggested, that we had designed but never implemented for Vampire Bloodlines. I've talked about it here and there in other videos. A brief recap, and remember, I was not on Bloodlines team for the first 2 years. A brief recap is part of the original design for Bloodlines that we were doing for Activision using Valve's engine from Half-Life was a multiplayer mode. It was written down, it was designed, but at some point when Activision was concerned about that the single player game was really big and they wanted us to focus on it, they took multiplayer mode away from Troika and gave it to another team. I don't know if it was an in-house Activision team or another out-of-house team. They made a whole new design, didn't get very far with it. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was they weren't working out or Activision just didn't want to spend the money. But that whole thing got canceled and Bloodlines shipped as a single-player game. I did finally find our design document for what I always call CounterBite. Part of the reason I had trouble finding it, it wasn't called CounterBite. It just says multiplayer. It's chapter 9 of the Vampire Bloodlines design document. I'll read you part of it and describe what we were going to do. So I want you to have a good idea of what we were planning. But this never happened. And this is a good example of cut content that while there does exist some code for this, in fact, I found some UIs in the Vampire code for things. I think it was like dialogue and haggling, but it never got created. So let me talk about CounterBite. I'll read you the first part of Chapter 9. In designing the multiplayer aspect of Vampire The Masquerade, we have chosen to create a multiplayer experience that is entirely unique and separate from the single-player game. In order to appeal to a wider market and play up the strength of Valve's engine, we have decided to closely model Vampire The Masquerade's multiplayer after Counter-Strike style of cooperative team combat. By doing so, we will create an exciting new venue for the online community. Not only can players get a game going with their friends easily, they can also join in games hosted by anyone online. Each game will be exhilarating and quick, yet will encompass the vital aspects of Vampire the Masquerade. Players will choose to play either a vampire or a human character. Vampires can be any of the 7 clans available in the single-player game, and will spend experience points to customize their character just like the single-player game. Humans will belong to the New Order of Leopold, and we have a unique set of disciplines, such as Numina, as well as weapon choices made available only to them, such as stake-launching guns and flamethrowers. While each game will only have 2 teams, the person setting up the server will decide each team's allegiance from one of the 9 options: Camarilla, New Order of Leopold, or any of the 7 clans. This will allow for a wide variety of play, from clan versus clan to Camarilla versus Society of Leopold. After a 5-minute round, players will receive an amount of money based on their performance in that round. The money can be spent to purchase additional armor, weapons, or ammo prior to the beginning of the next round. At map rotation points, each player will be given experience points based on their performance in previous rounds, as well as how much money they have retained. These points can be spent to further flesh out and develop their characters prior to the beginning of the next map, thus allowing for a wide variety of player types in the multiplayer arena. Additionally, each map will take place at least partially in a populated area. Maintaining the masquerade will be of utmost important in the populated areas. Any break in the masquerade will negatively affect the player's points for that round. So that was pretty cool. We had some more technical design. There's a configuration on the different modes of play. For example, when the configurations we had set up was team type, which every multiplayer game needs 2 competing teams. First, players will select what teams they wish to play and then choose what clan if they pick Camarilla. There would be team colors. I don't think I was involved in this part of the design. The default was red for Team 1 and blue for Team 2, but they provide a wide variety of colors, so I imagine we'd have a color blindness option in there for people like me. There's a map list to decide what maps will cycle after a preset time period by adding the names on a chosen maps list. There's a map cycle. The map cycle defaults to 4 rounds, but the server can change this to any round limit under 12. After 4 rounds, the map changes to the next map on the list. There are a variety of scenarios, and this is the cool part because I had forgotten about this. The first scenario is team elimination. This map allows the players to fight a traditional clan war. The round ends when all members of one team have been eliminated. Players are rewarded money and points depending on their kill-to-death ratio and infractions against the Masquerade. Blood Hunt. This map takes the highest-rated character and marks him as the Chosen. He's placed at the opposite end of the map from the rest of the players, and his objective is to escape to one of the 3 possible exits. For example, get to the subway. The Chosen Blood Hunt must escape from players belonging to 2 opposing teams. All other members of the 2 teams start at the opposite end of the map with the instructions to kill the Blood Hunted one. Maximum points will be awarded for killing the Blood Hunt. However, points are also given for killing members of the opposing team, and the round ends when either the Blood Hunted character makes it to one of the exits or is killed. The third one one's called Kine. Each team member has 5 humankind that they must protect. The goal of each team is to capture the kind of the opposite team and return them to their haven or safe house. The round ends when either the time expires after 5 minutes or the opposing team has been eliminated. And notice that Kine can be captured several times each round. Bonuses are given for each Kine in the team's haven on top of the usual points for kills. And then the fourth one was called Embrace. This map is for a Vampire versus Society of Leopold play only. 3 humans have been chosen to receive the Embrace, and the Society of Leopold has sworn to protect them. The Vampire's goal is to embrace all the humans. Once a human has been embraced or completely drained, they fall to the ground. After 45 seconds, they arise as a vampire and fight for the Vampire team. The Society of Leopold will be armed with special potions that will counteract the effect of the Embrace once a human is on the ground, but must be given prior to them arising as a vampire. The round ends either when the time expires, 2 humans have been embraced, or 1 team has been entirely eliminated. Now this is really cool. We go on and explain Numina that we had planned. Since mortals can't purchase vampire disciplines, only vampires gain those abilities. Mortal hunters are given Numina. Numina were holy powers that hunters can wield as a result of their faith. They believe that they must eliminate these monsters of the night as commanded by God. These special abilities are empowered by faith, and a human player starts with 15 faith points that can be replenished if they pray at a holy site. Any type of human characters can purchase all of the following Numina. And we had 4 Numina defined. We had Shield of Faith. Each point of faith spent gives the caster a +1 to their soak, maximum 5 for 5 seconds. Like Blood Healing of the Vampires, the ability is available to all in the order. Casting time is 1 second to bring up a crucifix. 1 additional second for each point spent, and 1 second to put away the crucifix. Divine Vision. This allows the caster to see all the auras of creatures living and non-living. Each level increases the caster's visual range by 5 yards. Holy Light. It creates a flash of light that will blind the undead. In addition, it will cause vampires to frenzy. Each level of the spell increases the area of effect by 10 yards. Casting time is 1 second to bring up the crucifix and 1 second to put it away. Finally, there's Mind Shield. Fortifies the mind of the caster against any mind control or any of the unholy mental attacks from vampires. We had the Renewing Faith system mechanic designed. Humans use faith points instead of blood. These faith points replace blood drops at the top of the screen with blue crosses. To regain faith, humans must find a crucifix and pray. Crucifixes should be placed unconsciously throughout the level. The act of praying will put the character into a state similar to vampires feeding. It takes time. The camera will jump from their body and they will be vulnerable by praying. By the way, these crucifixes are different than the portable ones that the player would hold up to do casting. This is talking about like a fixed large crucifix. There's a point system. Players start with 1,000 points. Whenever there's a kill, points are distributed to the killer and the victim. The same formula is used for both killer and victim. Points are rewarded to the killer and points are subtracted from the victim. There's a whole list of points on here of eliminating enemies, breaking the masquerade, killing an innocent, killing the blood hunted, the blood hunter escape, embracing a target, embraced number of turns, start healing embraced, revert embraced, and each kind in your herd. There's a whole list of weapons we were going to include. There are rules for breaking the masquerade. There are rules for feeding and praying, which we talked to. There's money. We talked about players earn and lose money by performing various actions. Money can be used to buy equipment at the start of the round and is also converted to character points at the start of every map. And remember, you play in the same map for several rounds. At the end of each round, a player is given $500. Additional money is awarded for character total points earned for that round at $100 per point. If a team loses twice, they're awarded an additional $500 per round until they win. That's to help prevent that once you start winning, it's almost impossible for the other side to catch up. Also, if an individual has $1,500 or more, they do not receive any additional bonus, $500. So if you are on a team that loses and you're hoarding your money, there's a $1,500 cap on that. Experience points. After 4 rounds, the default, a map change will occur. When a map change occurs, the character's remaining money is converted to experience points. The player will have 1 minute to adjust character stats to his liking. If the player still has not finished at the end of the grace period, the game will go on without that character, and they have to wait to come in until the next round. If you've ever had people jam up a lobby, you know where we put that roll in. Then there's game flow. Players are frozen at the start of a round, called the grace period. They cannot move, but still can purchase any type of equipment available. Each round ends after 5 minutes, and if neither team has won, a win is awarded depending on the following scenario. Team elimination. The team with the most remaining characters wins, but at the end of the round, if the teams are equal, the round is a draw and no points are awarded. Blood hunt. If both teams have been eliminated by the blood hunted, the win will go to the blood hunt team. Go to the blood hunted character. Else, the round is a draw and the blood hunted character will remain the hunted character in the next round. Kine. The team with the greater number of kines in their haven wins. However, if the kine is equal, the team with the greater number of remaining characters wins. If all else is equal, the round is a draw. And finally, for the embrace, if the round ends and neither of the targets have been turned, or they've all been killed, the win goes to the hunters. Finally, upon a player's death, they can enter an observer mode until next round. While in this passive mode, they can fly freely around the level and watch the action. There are 3 types of observer modes with server-specified rules. The first is ghost mode, where the inactive player can move around the level completely and unobstructed. The second is locked chase cam mode, where the player is locked behind an active player that they can choose to observe. The third is free look chase cam. The player can swing the camera around a chosen active player being observed. They use the jump key while in observer mode to switch between those 3 modes. The fire button switches from one active player to the next if the chase cam is activated. If the player joins a game when a round is already in progress, they will be immediately placed into observer mode for the rest of the round. There's also a big list of weapons and equipment. We already had server settings set up, and we actually even put in a bunch of CVARs for controlling it. We had done some tests. And then the one last thing that was interesting is there's one note. There's an entire section called multiplayer deviations, because I've talked about it. Single player and multiplayer games can't always have the same rules. The one that's called out, and I'm sure we would have had more, is for celerity. Celerity in the single player game, celerity speeds up the player using it. In the single player game, this was represented as slowing down the world. But you can't do that in multiplayer. So for multiplayer gaming, celerity will speed up the players as opposed to slowing down the world. Note, this will be an optional server setting. You can choose not to allow celerity at all. I don't know if we had talked about how easy the game would be to play if your movement speed and action speed was simply sped up. So I think that's why we covered ourselves by saying you can have a server setting to just disable celerity altogether. Anyway, guys, that is all the notes we have on multiplayer for CounterBite. This was dated September 2003, which is about the time I switched from Temple onto Bloodlines. I don't know how much of this is mine. I think most of this, if not all of it, is not my design. I think at this point, my only contribution to this was the name, which did not appear in here and was never used, as well as this was never made. But I thought you guys would like to hear about this because I love hearing about designs that never came to be. And this is more than just cut content. This is literally an entire design that was never, ever implemented. Anyway, for you Vampire Bloodlines fans, I hope you like that.